Legally Speaking, Take 5 with Cindy Crocker.
Good evening, I'm Cindy Crocker. Welcome to Legally Speaking, Take 5, where we take 5 minutes to answer your questions about the law. Tonight, we're discussing big truck accidents, and with me is my husband, law partner, and the head of our litigation section at Crocker Law Firm, Ben Crocker. Thanks, Ben, for coming on and talking with us.
You're welcome.
So you've done, you do the litigation at the practice, and I know you've litigated some big truck accidents, some really bad injuries. I think one thing people want to know is, why is this different? How is this different than an accident that involves just 2 cars?
I would say, first of all, the stakes are often much higher. When you're involved in a motor vehicle collision with a big truck, first of all, they tend to cause more damage.
Sure.
Meaning people get hurt worse, they spend more time at the hospital, they have a harder time coming back. But there's also more at stake because there's typically more insurance involved when you have a big truck. And that way we're able to get people compensated for the damages they do have.
Well, that makes sense. Let's see what questions other people have had for us. This question comes from Christy D. in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Do I have a case against the driver of the truck, or am I bringing a case against the trucking company that owns the truck?
Typically, when we're involved in a wreck involving a commercial vehicle, we will file suit against not only the driver, but also the company he was working for at the time.
And can you explain to people why the company, I mean, I can imagine scenarios where the company would be responsible because they did poor maintenance on the truck, or because the company insisted that drivers drive unreasonable hours and they're overtired. But what if the company itself, aside from the driver, really didn't do anything negligent? It is only the negligence of the driver, like he's speeding or something.
That's exactly right. Sometimes the trucking companies, someone other than the driver actually does something wrong, but the trucking company itself is always liable for their employees' actions. And so even if the driver was the only person who did something wrong, the trucking company is still going to be liable in that situation.
Great information. Okay, so another question from one of our viewers. Do these big trucks have different insurance than the insurance I might have on my own car?
And that's a real good question. They do have, the way it's different is they typically have a lot more insurance. Trucking companies or trucks themselves, when they're not driven properly, can cause a huge amount of damage. Therefore, the insurance is much higher, which allows us to do a lot more for our clients.
And also, sometimes would you pursue the trucking company themselves? I mean, their own assets beyond their insurance? It seems like some of these are huge corporations.
We can, and sometimes there's enough insurance there, and sometimes there's not. And if there's not, we can certainly look to the trucking company itself. They have a lot of assets. Some of these are multi-million-dollar companies, and they've got, a whole line of trucks. And we're not limited to just looking at their insurance at that point.
So there's other places you can go to make this right for the victim beyond the insurance.
Definitely. We will look at assets the company has as well.
It sounds like you really need a lawyer to get involved, basically to determine what the claims are, because as you were saying, it can be many different things that contribute to an accident with a big truck.
There can be, and not only could the driver himself be at fault, the trucking company could be liable for not keeping good maintenance. They could be liable for hiring a bad driver who they knew had a bad record. Or there could be a different company who loaded the truck, and sometimes the load shift, and that can be one of the causes, at least, in a big commercial truck wreck.
So it sounds like there's actually a lot of, well, I know there is because we work together, a lot of work that you have to do to investigate the case. The person who hires you doesn't always know the whole story of how this happened to them.
That's right, and that's why we like to get involved early. Trucking companies are required to keep certain types of information, driver's logs that show how much the driver has been driving before this happened and where he's been. Those can be real important for us to get early on, and if we don't get them early, sometimes the trucking companies destroy those and you never have access to them again. So we like to get involved as early as we can in a truck wreck so that we can get that kind of information. We also hire accident reconstructionists who come in, they investigate what caused the wreck itself, and so we are able to get more information early on.
That is really helpful, and if you would like to see that again, you can see it on crockerfirm.com, where you can also give us your suggestions about other topics you'd like to see us discuss. Until then, see you next time.